Hey, welcome back to Adventure World in Godot. So in this video, I hope to keep it short, and what my goal is in this one is to fix one quick thing that I forgot in the last video about the torch. We didn't detect whether or not the player actually had the torch when you went into the darkness. It just always worked. So it's a quick fix. All we need to do is jump into our player here, and if we look at the player script, right here there's a toggle torch or toggle light function that we did, and right here we turn it on if you know that we're trying to turn it on, like if you're going into the tunnel, but we didn't check to see if the player had it or not. So that's an easy check. We just make an additional and statement in here to make an additional logic condition here, and what we're looking for is inventory dot has and torch, just like that. So if you look that up in the help on array and then has, it returns a Boolean value if any array the array contains that value. So if it finds a torch anywhere in the inventory, it'll return true. So let's give that a shot. So now if I walk in here, it should not light up, and I just have darkness. But if I go back here and I look at my script, and I hack in on my player create, I can hack in an item. So I put these couple little test lines in here. So this will artificially give me that torch when I start up the game. Now when I walk in there, it should activate the light. You can see I adjusted this shadow area just a little bit to make it look a little bit more realistic, like the light was kind of, shining in on an angle, and then I pulled this down so that it didn't have a weird angle there. So anyways, that's what I wanted to do there. The other thing I wanted to do is work on a new enemy type. Let's make a fish, and he'll just go back and forth and bump into walls and turn back and forth. So let's give that a shot. So what I did is I added some art under enemies for this fish. I added a green one too, but I think we're going to use the pink one to help the fish stand out. So what we need is a new scene, and this is going to be a kinematic body, 2D, and I'm going to need, I'm not sure what I want to use to animate it, probably an animated sprite, because I've got two frames. So let's go ahead and go in here, and I can do default. Well, let's just call this swimming. We'll just do default and leave that on. So it should just go ahead and swim. So I'm going to call this fish. I don't think I use anything else on my actors here. Enemy fish. Yeah, let's do that. Alright, so I have enemy fish, and of course this needs a collision shape. So let's go ahead and zoom in here, and I'm just using my middle mouse scroll wheel to do that, and let's add a collision shape, and I should be able to get away with a rectangle for this one, I think. So get my rectangle. I'm going to use those inner handles right there. It's really nice in Godot 3.1. They got rid of this outside one when you're working with outside stuff, when you're working with collision shapes, and that helps prevent you from accidentally scaling your object unintentionally. So here I'm saving it. I'm going to save it under actors. Enemy fish should go in there, and then I'm going to add a script, and I'm going to leave the defaults. I think that should be just fine, and I do need to change this, and I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to change it to the actor because that's my base class for all of them, and I'm just going to copy it from the snail. So I can just copy that top line and then go over to enemy fish and paste it to replace that one. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and copy the rest of this, and then we'll just remove what we don't need. So I'm going to copy all of that, paste that in here, and save it. And then the other thing I need to do My enemy fish here has, let's see, he's got a damage area. And that was so that we could jump on top. With the fish, I think for now we'll just make it where they just hurt you and you can't hurt them. So they're more of a dodge obstacle instead of a something you can attack. The other thing we need to do is we do want to have this ray, the ray with the front ray cast. I don't think I can copy these. I can duplicate them, but that won't put them in a different scene. So we'll have to go ahead and remake these here. So I'm going to add a child node, and that was a position 2D, and that was my center thing, which was called ray pivot. And then I had my rays were off from that. Now in my case, I think I'll be fine with just the front one because we're not going to have the fish swim down. So I'm just going to have this one, and let's change this to Y10 X. Oh wait, I want to go in the X direction and not the Y. I'm going to start with -10, and then let's move it out here. That should be about fine right like that. So I will have to be careful to make sure that the fish, his nose will run into a wall. So in other words, if the wall would hit up here, it would act very strangely because he wouldn't turn around. So we'll just make sure of that when we do our level design. I don't recall changing anything else. Looks like our collision mask is different, so we probably need to fix that. I believe that was because of issues where they were running into themselves. So here we just we don't want them to run into other enemies. So there we go. Okay, so now we don't have the down ray, so let's get rid of that one. We do have both of those. This is fine. This is what damages the player, so we'll leave that. So here we're adding gravity. We don't want gravity on our fish because the fish is going to be in water. So we're just going to remove that altogether. And so here's the code for detecting hitting a wall, so we need that. And then front ray is colliding, so that's if we run into something, then this will flip us, so we still need that. And we don't need the ledge, so we'll remove that. And this is what makes us move left or right, so we do need that. So let's go ahead and try this. So if I go back to my scene here, and I take my enemy fish, and I put a couple in here, a little hard to see. And the other thing I didn't think about is they need to go here in this enemies, and I just added it somewhere else. I accidentally added it under the player. That's not good. So there we go. That's much better. The one thing here is my enemies are above the foregrounds, and that's not good. They probably need to be here with the player. Alright, so, and because if you're careful and you store them all inside of a container like that, you can move them around all at once. So that will hopefully be helpful. So another thing is I'm going to make sure that's selected. I'm going to add another couple of these guys. We'll add one down in here and another one right there. So that should be somewhat challenging. Let's give it a try. Oh, got an error. Invalid index position. Ah, so it's the splash stuff. So I didn't add a splash position. So I could code around that, but let's just go ahead and add one. It won't matter too much. This is my snail. I need the fish. And position 2D. And it needs to be called splash position 2D. And in our case, it doesn't matter particularly where it's at. We can move it down there just in case we do end up making the fish come out of the water for some reason. Oh, another one. Attempt to call function play. Alright, the splash audio stream player. Okay, so we need that splash sound. Starting to think we should code around that. Yeah, let's do that. So what I can do here is I'm going to delete that and call it splash sound, like that. And then up here I'm going to say on ready var splash sound equals get node. I already had all that. There we go. So that should get the sound, but it's going to be null if it's not there. So what we can do is say if splash sound, then play the splash sound. Let's see if this works. There we go. Alright, so does my fish turn around or do they just run into the wall? They just run into the wall. But they do move, so that's good. Let's see what happens when my player hits them. Nothing. So we have to fix those two problems. Alright, so node not found. I think I'm going to get those. I probably need to find a better way to check whether or not a node is there. I'll look into that. But for now, this should be fine. So I need to fix the player and the turning around. So let's check out. I'm not on my enemy fish. There we go. So front ray is colliding. So sprite is coming from my actor, I'm guessing. It's been a little while since I've worked on this. That's the disadvantage of taking some time off. Alright, so here, yeah, I'm getting that from the actor. So that's what that is. And so that's why it's got the flip in there. I didn't see it playing, so we need to turn that on. So that should give us our playing animation. I forgot about that. And then why were you not turning around? So let's try on our fish. Let's pull this in and extend it a little bit. So I don't know what we had on the snail, but these look quite a bit bigger. So the front one was, well, it was 10 as well. And exclude the parent and cast a 10. So let's make sure. Ah, it's not enabled. There we go. That's where my problem was. Let's go ahead and put that back, and we will try that again. Aha! So they're turning around. Good deal. And then they stop when my player hits them, but it's not damaging my player. So we need to figure that out. So, let's see. Let me fish. So we've got, if we look up here, This is my actor script. So actor actually doesn't damage the player at all, and our function here needs to be attached. So we didn't do that, and that's why this is not damaging the player. So if I look at my enemy fish, kinematic body, and then I come down here to node, and then hang on one second. So I see. So I had a damage area. So that's why I've had the area 2D. We'll go ahead and do that and just try it out. That should make things a little simpler. And so we'll do a rectangle again. We'll make this one just a little bit, just a touch bigger. There we go. And might make this one a touch smaller. You're not going to really notice it, because it'll just be, the fish should turn around when he hits here, and hopefully your player won't actually be physically making contact with the fish, so hopefully it's not a big deal. Right, but we didn't call that, what was it, damage area 2D, and I need to attach this. So I need to go to node, and here's the function I was looking for, was body entered, and then I need to connect that, and I need to connect it up here at the top. And so there, it's now connected my signal. So now if I start, and someone else, I'll try it on the next one. There we go. Oh, yeah, there we go. So that works. I would say that our kickback was pretty strong in the water. One thing somebody else mentioned that I totally forgot to check out, down up here in the debugging settings, there's, let's see, you can set up your collision shapes to be visible and your navigation, but there's these two things right here. And let's turn them on. They're off by default in 3.0, but I believe they're on by default in 3.1. And what they allow you to do is make changes here while your game is playing without having to stop and restart, which can help save you on some development time. So let's see how my... So yeah, that's just way too much kickback. So let's try... I'll go ahead and stop that. So let's see, I believe my fish just hurts the player, and so the player is the one that actually determines how he kicks back. So let's go to the hurt function, which is not here because it must be up here in actor. Here's the hurt function, and here's the knockback, and we play the flash, and we do knockback on Y times 1. So this is where I can adjust how much vertical knockback we do versus horizontal knockback. So what I could also do is adjust this based on if we're in the water or not. So I can say if is in water, and I just saw that down here, right there. So I can say if is in water, then do this, else do this. Alright? And what I'm going to do is just add a large, a very small multiplier here, which will reduce this knockback, and therefore my knockback won't be as strong in the Y direction, because the X direction seemed okay. So let's get a fishy to run into us here. Oh, yeah, so there, he almost didn't knock back at all. So let's jump that up to like 3. And I know I just restarted there, but I really did that more for my health, to bump my health back up. Oh yeah, yeah, that's perfect. Bounces back, we can swim around, and we now have fish. I think this is a successful video. One thing I need to do is remove my torch being auto set on the player ready. So it's a good test thing, but we probably won't need it right now. I may add or remove that as needed. Alright, so there we go, and next video we'll jump into some more stuff. I might go ahead and work on fleshing this water area out more, because this is the first goal of the game, is to come get that coin. So might kind of flesh this out just a little bit more. It's mostly going to be cosmetic, I think, from here. Maybe some bubbles and some plants, maybe. And then the second part is the cave. So we'll work on that after you talk to the merchant. The merchant, I believe, is all working. I may add a torch to the outdoors to kind of give that a little bit more ambience, and maybe inside. But yeah. Alright, hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon.